Chapter 9 Politics and Vacation. Katarina's POV. Hey sis, it seems like the meeting has already started. Do you want me to ask if we can join? I asked, looking over my shoulder at Milim. Yeah. I want to see what type of people they are to be able to interest Bestie, she responded as we moved further into the town. Hey Dad, can Milim and I join the meeting? We just got back from our hunt. I sent a thought communication as we continued to walk, not wanting to get scolded for walking in unannounced. Sure, our guests are interested in meeting you formally anyway, he said, sounding slightly distracted. We got permission, sis. So, let's head in, I called out while walking into the building where everyone was. Milim had already gotten distracted and wandered off. With the city being far more established now than in the earlier days, the main building for meetings was far fancier as a testament to that. The lobby held 2 high-end couches made from the finest material the forest had to offer, providing an extremely comfortable place to sit, second only to bin bags. I am not biased, I swear. Between the couches was a long, polished wood table, and the remaining area around the room held comfortable chairs that could be moved around as needed. Even with the furniture in the lobby, there was enough space left open so it would never feel cramped unless there were far more people than seats available. As we continued to walk, I admired the hallways, which were cream-colored with a few pieces of decoration scattered about, such as flowers and early pieces of art depicting dad and nature scenes. While we didn't have any famous artists yet, the people of Tempest still put their heart and soul into everything they do. I reached the closed door that would take us into the meeting and paused, taking a deep breath. I knew I would be walking into the world of politics once entering, and I had to calm my nerves a little before reaching up and giving 3 quick knocks. Come in, a voice said from the other side. I looked back at Milim and noticed that she was carefree as always. With her knack for being oblivious to everything, I could only shake my head a little and smile. Opening the door, I stepped inside and moved towards Dad, ignoring everyone else as I prepared myself for a long meeting ahead. We were waiting for you. These people wanted to thank you personally, Dad said while patting the spot next to him. Sorry for keeping you waiting. I thought you would go ahead and start without us, since you didn't know when we would be back, I said, taking a seat on the offered chair and taking a moment to position my tail out the gap in the back. It's quite all right, we didn't have to wait long after all, an older-looking human said. Getting a chance to look around the room, I started to take note of everyone who was present. From our side, Benimaru, Shun, Rigard, and Sue were seated around the table or standing up behind us, giving a fair number of familiar faces. From the guests, there were 2 different groups. The first group contained 3 young adventurers dressed in high-quality gear who seemed to be familiar with Dad. The older person who spoke up before was also with them, dressed in more casual clothing without any visible armor but giving off a mature and refined feeling. The second group consisted of a well-tanned man dressed in normal clothing with a long coat covering a good portion of his body. He gave off the feeling of being rough around the edges, more accustomed to the wild than politics. The second person with him was a thin, mage-looking person who had a nervous disposition and was rather unremarkable because of it. Milim had already taken a seat behind us while I studied each person and settled into place, happily ignoring everything for the moment. I smiled at her innocence before focusing back on the topic at hand, ready to try and not fall asleep this time. First, I would like to thank you for saving us from the night spider earlier, and to introduce myself. You can call me Fuse, the older man said before giving a little seated bow. It was nothing really, we were just out hunting. Right, sis? Before Milim could respond, someone else spoke up. Rimuru, who is this girl? Why did she call you Dad earlier after saving us? The young girl said. She was part of Fuse's group and seemed different than the other humans in the room. Dad sighed softly before answering. That, is because she is my daughter. I might as well introduce Milim as well here. She is Katarina's cousin, but they act like sisters. Since when did you have a daughter? She is so cute. Anne enthusiastically said. I am. Thanks. I could already feel the blush rising on my cheeks as I tried to hide my face, even while my thoughts were scrambled. Cute! She called me cute! I turned away from everyone else and faced towards the wall while burying my face in my arms. I wasn't sure why I got so flustered, but I did and was unable to calm down fast enough. Feeling a hand on my shoulder, I looked up and saw Dad smiling down at me while projecting a comforting presence, no doubt sensing my sudden change in behavior. Taking a few deep breaths, I finally sat up correctly in my chair once more, but avoided looking at Anne while the meeting started to progress. Each person formally introduced themselves for our benefit before Fuse started to speak. Fuse was kind enough to explain his position about wanting to find more information about the Orc Lord, and Rummel, Yome's second-in-command, added a few details himself, saying that they were in the same boat. I suppressed a shiver that ran through my body as the two humans talked about the Orc Lord as a threat, while memories suddenly surfaced once more. A sudden hand on my leg drew me out of my thoughts, and I instinctively leaned over to lay my head on Dad's shoulder for comfort. "I'm sorry, I'm okay now," I said through thought communication, hoping the others didn't notice my sudden panic attack. "It's okay, I am here for you," Dad answered, easing the tension from my body completely. Once I was calm again, I started listening to the conversations once more, and decided I wish I hadn't. Yome, who I learned was the leader of the fighting band I saw earlier, didn't waste time on pleasantries. "Why the hell is a slime acting all high and mighty? Do you not see how insane this is?" Yome said, right before falling to the ground unconscious. I couldn't help but to wonder how Yome knew Dad was a slime, but quickly realized that he must have transformed back to his human form before I got here. I was glad that he was in his human form right now, and was grateful for it as it would have been harder to seek comfort from him in his slime form. "Shen, you can't go around hitting people who anger you like that." Dad started to scold Shen for hitting him. "But that was so terrible. I'm known for my endurance under fire, you know," Shen said while pouting softly. "Wah ha ha ha. Losing your patience, huh? I see you've got a lot to learn, Shen. You need to broaden your horizons, like I have. No wonder you're so hot-tempered," Milim blurted out, suddenly listening to what was going on. "Dad, I was about to attack him too. Shen just beat me to it because she is standing up." I thought this while looking away, trying to play innocent. Thankfully, Dad didn't realize that I was about to attack as well, so I escaped without getting in trouble. After healing Yome, he was a lot nicer suddenly, much to my surprise after dealing with Phobio, and started to treat us with a little more respect. I figured he realized how great Dad was, just like Phobio did, and that is why he is behaving better. I am a little disappointed that we have another rude person here, but at least Fuse and Anne seem to be nice people. They cancel out the two rude people I have met from outside of the city, I guess. That is how it works, right? I wasn't sure why I joined the meeting in the first place, as I wasn't able to contribute much of anything to it. While the conversations carried on, I started to only half pay attention while studying the souls of each person present to pass the time. Each one matched the personalities I have seen so far, but for some reason, Cavil and Guido seemed to have a large burden weighing down on them. I couldn't tell what the reason for this burden was, and not wanting to draw attention to myself, I let it be for the time being. With the meeting wrapping up, I stood and did a few stretches, trying to wake back up after having nearly fallen asleep. The main points that came out of the meeting were Fuse wanting to stay here for a little while to make sure we weren't a threat to humans, and Yome being named the champion that slayed the Orc Lord. Our city would be the ones that gave supplies to the champion, thus making us friendly in the eyes of the rest of the humans. It was a good idea as far as I could tell, and it would take a lot of the suspicion off us as well. Politics are exhausting. I hope I never have to attend a meeting again. While thinking this, I transformed into my cat form and jumped into Milim's arms. There were several gasps of surprise, which I ignored, while settling into place, wanting to be done with all the new people for now. "Cat, can you let Kurobe and Kaijin know that I want Yome's crew fitted out with proper gear befitting a champion's group?" Dad said before Milim and I could escape the room. "Meow. Sure, I'll head over there now. Can we go swimming tomorrow though?" I promised Sis that we would sometime. I meowed like a cat just to confuse our guests a little, before speaking through thought communication directly, agreeing to the request. Consider it done, we can do a little vacation for a few days, Dad said cheerfully. Once out of the building, I transformed once more into my lycanthrope form and started heading for the workshops. With Milim in tow, I flew over and informed our resident smiths about the new project Dad wanted done. I was sure that Yome's group would be sent over here eventually to get whatever information was needed for each set of equipment, so I simply informed them to expect more work soon. Milim's POV. The next day. I was up far earlier than normal today, and the reason was simple. Rimuru and Katarina promised that we would go swimming, fishing, and other stuff as a sort of vacation for a few days. I have been looking forward to this since it was brought up weeks ago, but whenever I mentioned wanting to, it was never the right time. Rimuru! Rimuru! Wake up, let's go! I called out while knocking on his bedroom door. It only took a minute before he slipped out of the door and closed it behind him, but not before I noticed Katarina still sleeping in his bed. My confusion must have been clearly showing, as Rimuru shook his head and told me to keep it down before leading the way towards the kitchen. Katarina had a nightmare last night about the orcs due to the conversations from yesterday. That is why she is sleeping in my bed currently. She wanted some comfort, Rimuru said, explaining it in a way I could understand and banishing the confusion. Guilt washed over me as I knew I had a hand in helping the orcs invade the forest, even if it was Clayman who handled most of the work. The idea was still given my backing, which made it partly my fault. I will have to make it up to her somehow, although I don't know how to do that. Once she wakes up, we will head out for our vacation. I have already let my executives know so they can manage the city while we are gone, he continued. An hour later, Katarina was awake and ready to head out. With everything from food to shelter packed away in Rimuru's stomach for easy transport, we would be traveling light. After a quick goodbye to everyone, we flew into the sky and started to take off in the direction of the lake, with Rimuru in the lead. With the lake having come into view quickly, I was eager to land and have some fun, but I also wanted to take in the sight. The lake itself was crystal clear, reflecting the clouds as if it were a mirror surface. It's so pretty! I'm glad the two of you brought me here, I said, overjoyed. Just wait until you see it at dusk. The setting sun is a sight to behold, Katarina replied, unable to hide her own happiness. We landed on the shoreline, and I was about to jump straight into the water, but Rimuru stopped me. He made several good points about setting up our camp before having fun, so we could enjoy the full day without having to work afterwards. The camp consisted of a large tent with several sectioned-off areas for sleeping, a main area for gathering to talk and eat, and a fireplace set out a safe distance from the tent itself. The whole process of getting everything set up took almost no time at all thanks to our skills, and it gave me enough time to pause and admire the surroundings. The quietness of the forest and the shore next to the lake made it seem extremely peaceful. With Rimuru and Sis here with me, it wasn't a lonely quiet, but instead one of relaxation and comfort. I will just sleep with Sis. That way, if she has a nightmare again, I can comfort her. I want her to rely on me too. After all. Once everything was set up, we quickly changed into swimsuits. Katarina wore a swimsuit that covered from her chest to between her legs in a solid black that matched her hair nicely. Rimuru wore a similar swimsuit in light blue with white stripes, and finally, I was wearing a pink bikini. Why a bikini? Because I am mature enough for it, of course. With us changed into proper swimming attire, I jumped straight into the water with a large splash, soaking both Sis and Rimuru, who were still on the shore. Grinning up at them, I started to swim around and overall enjoy myself. You will pay for that, Sis, Katarina said, even as she walked into the water as well. What I didn't notice was that a large wave was headed straight for me until it was too late for me to escape by swimming. No. That is cheating, using skills like that. I went under the water as the wave pounded down and started to push me towards the bottom of the lake. What felt like forever, but was just a few seconds, I felt small hands on my arm as they started to pull me back up towards the surface. Breaching the surface, I looked around to see who had pulled me back up. Katarina was swimming right next to me, her hand still holding tightly to my arm. With a smile, I reached over and patted her head, realizing she forgot that I didn't need to breathe. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. With fear in her eyes and tears threatening to fall while she continued holding her grip on me, she spoke up. Hey, don't cry. I'm completely fine, okay? I gave a quick splash to her face to knock her out of her thoughts. Smiling widely as she finally let go, I swam towards shallower waters to stand up. The emotion she showed, the way she dove after me without hesitation, it filled my heart with joy just knowing how much she cared about me. Today was already the best day ever just because I got to see that side of her. Katarina swam over to me and gave a big hug, and I noticed Rimuru smiling at the both of us from the side. If I had to guess, he was happy that we are forming a sisterly bond so quickly. While the bond was already there from the start for me, I was glad that Katarina was accepting me so easily. The rest of the day was spent in splashing wars, racing contests, cannonball contests, and much more. I, of course, won all of them, well, except for the racing contests, as both Rimuru and Sis were cheating. By the end of the day, we were all worn out and ready to rest by the fire and have some delicious food. The food was already prepared for us, and the fire was just for ambience according to Rimuru. I had to admit that it was still nice, and helped to dry us off. While we ate, I watched the sunset over the horizon and had to admit that Katarina was completely right. The water and sky looked beautiful as oranges and reds lit up the night and reflected off the water, offering a sight I never wanted to forget. With it being a cloudless day, there was nothing in the way of the light as it slowly descended towards the horizon, and changed the reflections off the lake into new and beautiful scenes. Well, I am doubly glad that we set everything up beforehand now, Dad. I am far too tired to have even considered doing it now, Katarina said while eating a hamburger. Yeah, I know, right? I want to eat and then go straight to bed. Today was so much fun that I can't wait for what tomorrow will bring. I responded while eating my own burger and savoring the taste. I'm glad the two of you enjoyed yourselves so much. Tomorrow we will go to the sea so we can try our hand at fishing. We can bring the fish back and have a huge feast back home, Rimuru added, happiness showing in his smile while his body was completely relaxed. I guess Rimuru needed this as much as we did. He seems to have relaxed a lot since we got here and it has been a lot of fun. It's like we are having a family vacation. I suddenly yawned widely, unable to fight off the sleep anymore now that the night was darkening around us. Right, bedtime, you too. We will pack up and head out tomorrow morning, so make sure you get plenty of sleep, Rimuru continued while putting out the fire so the sparks didn't spread. Sis and I needed no other word said as we both headed into the tent and almost instantly passed out in our beds. Katarina's POV. The fun and excitement were enough to banish all the bad thoughts that had plagued my mind ever since the meeting, and I was able to sleep peacefully. Having Sis sleeping in the same sectioned-off area as me also helped to put any lingering worries at ease, so the night passed without incident. It was one of the better sleeps of my life. Sleeping out in nature and not having to worry about any duties made it quite peaceful. Waking up as the first rays of light crossed over the forest, I stretched out. The next day we took down the tent. Well, Dad just swallowed it up, after a quick breakfast and headed out once more. This time our destination was the sea, which I had never seen before. It took over an hour to get to the sea, even as we flew at speeds I never dreamed of. Sis was the fastest of all of us, but she slowed her speed considerably so that both Dad and I could keep up. There is the sea ahead of us. Dad called out as we neared the ocean. I was having a hard time processing what I was seeing at first, and I had to ask one burning question. Dad, if that is the sea, then where is the other side? I mean, surely there is another side, right? Confusion and awe were evident in my voice as I took in the massive body of water. I have never crossed it myself, but you could fly until you no longer saw the land you started from and still not see the other side of the ocean, Milim supplied helpfully. That is insane. Who would have thought that so much of the world would be made of water? I responded, slowly accepting the information that was told to me. With the shore now underneath us, we started to head down and look for a good place to set up camp along the shoreline. It took a little longer than I would have liked, but we did eventually find a nice flat area to set up for the day. As we planned to head back to Tempest before dinner, there was no need to set up the tent this time, which saved us a lot of time. Instead, we got straight to work sorting out the fishing rods and bait we would be using for the day. There was also an improvised fireplace so we could make some food for lunch later. While we worked to get set up, I enjoyed the scenery as the sun reflected off the water in a dazzling light show of ever-changing sparkles. With each wave and movement of the water, the light changed, offering a captivating sight. The light looked like twinkling stars, or perhaps gems that were ever moving on the surface of the water. I wish we could stay and watch the sunset here tonight as well, but there is too much work to do back home and we can't stay away forever. Why don't we make this a little competition? Whoever wins can make a single request of one of the losers, within reason, of course, Dad said playfully and yet confident at the same time. Deal! I don't know what I will ask for, but it will be amazing. Milim quickly agreed. Okay, if Sis is in, then I am as well. May the best fisherwoman win. I issued a challenge, declaring from the start that it was going to be either Milim or me who won. Why you cheeky little? We will see what the results say at the end. Dad responded, even as he cast his line out. Whoops, I might have pushed it a little too far. I will just have to do my best to win so Dad can't rub it in my face later. With that, we all started to cast our lines into the sea and the waiting game began. Several hours later, it was clear that Dad was winning, but only by a slim margin as I had a trick up my sleeve to help. I infused a small amount of magicules into the bait I was using so that monster fish would be attracted as well. It seemed to do the trick as I got a lot more bites after I started doing so, letting me start gaining on his lead. Sis was in last place for our little competition, but she didn't seem to mind as we were all enjoying ourselves far too much. As the time wore on, conversations flowed freely and without worry as we each shared stuff about ourselves. Most of the time was spent talking about shared interests and how they could be made better in the future. Other times it was talk about new stuff we could do for entertainment, and there were lots of ideas floating around. At the end of the day, Dad was ahead in fish count by 4, which was completely unfair, but Milim quietly gave me just enough fish to win. She was behind both of us by a fair amount, but still wanted to see one of us win in the end. When I tried to deny them, she shoved them into my hands anyway with a cheerful attitude, saying she wouldn't take no for an answer. While I didn't win fair and square, I was still more than ready to claim the victory after Milim's help. I was glad we got to spend this time together as a family, and I felt much closer to both of them because of it. I win, Dad! Hee, I teased. By 1 fish. Fine, what is it that you want? He said in mock anger. I don't know. I would have to think about it, but I will let you know when I figure something out, I responded, even as I thought about what I would want. There wasn't much of anything I needed, everything I could ever need was already provided, after all. Maybe I would just have to use it to spend more time with Dad and Sis at a later date. With the fish stored in our stomach so they didn't spoil, and the fishing rods and bait quickly cleaned up, we headed back home. We landed just outside of the city to a large welcoming party, and a feast well on its way. The food smelled divine, and with the fish from our trip added to the food being served, no one would go hungry tonight. Third-person POV. They look like they are having so much fun. I want to join them as well, Veldora yelled out into the void. Ifrit, standing beside Veldora, couldn't help but to shake his head in annoyance. This was becoming a common occurrence whenever Rimuru went out to have some fun while Veldora was still locked away inside of his stomach. That wasn't to say that Veldora wasn't glad that Rimuru was having fun, but he wished he could also join in. It was understandable, considering he was sealed away for 300 years with nothing to do, but at least he had the ability to watch what was happening in the outside world now to help keep him entertained. Veldora, you should really continue to analyze the prison you are in. If you don't, how are you planning to get out and have fun with everyone else? Ifrit spoke up, the voice of reason once more. I know. I will just invite my niece here again. That will help solve some of my boredom. Veldora proclaimed, completely ignoring Ifrit. Chapter 9.5 Family Relations. Katarina's POV. The area was dark, empty of light, and endless. I stood in what I would call the middle, for lack of defined edges, and looked around slowly, trying to figure out what was happening. Why do I feel like I have been here before? It's not like a normal dream. I spoke into the emptiness, my voice carrying a tone of confusion. While I adjusted to the darkness, I looked around for any indication of where I was. It didn't take too long for my eyes to adjust. Even if they hadn't, a man on fire was hard to miss when there was no other light in the entire place. Calling out towards the figure, I waved at them in greeting. Ifrit! It's good to see you again. Where is Uncle? What? I am right here. Do you not see me, Katarina? Veldora spoke up with a soft undertone of disappointment in his words. I looked up towards where I heard the voice coming from and let out a sigh. Uncle, why don't you take human form? Your black scales blend in so well with this place that I completely missed you. With a loud laugh that shook the nearby area, causing both Ifrit and me to take sturdier stances, Veldora gave a very sagely nod. Why, yes, of course. Why didn't I think about that sooner? A bright light suddenly appeared around Veldora, strong enough to push back the darkness around us. As the seconds went by, the light slowly began to shrink until it was the size of an adult man. As the light disappeared, I looked at Veldora's new appearance and couldn't help but shake my head in disappointment. He stood tall and proud with gold eyes to match Dad's, short blonde hair, and hardly any clothing at all. With dark brown pants, white knee-high boots, white gloves, and a cape being his only clothing, I started to march straight up to him. He looked a little imposing with his well-defined muscles and tanned skin, but I wasn't about to let that stop me. Put on a shirt. I don't want to see you walking around half-naked, Uncle. Exasperation colored my voice as I scolded him for his appearance. Oh, all right. I guess it wouldn't hurt to put a shirt on as well, even if it will hide how strong I am, Veldora spoke up, sounding defeated even as a black shirt materialized on his body. I gave a little nod before backing away a few steps and sitting down, ready to begin chatting away the night. Much better. And people don't need to see your muscles to know how strong you are, so don't worry. I offered some reassurance before motioning both Veldora and Ifrit to sit down with me. So, Uncle, I wanted to ask you something, I continued speaking while they took their places. Veldora quickly cheered up after being told he was wanted for something. Sure, ask me anything, my dear niece. With a bright smile, he sat down with his legs crossed. With a smile, I gave a nod and put on a show of thinking for a second. I had him right where I wanted, and I was hoping to get all the information I could about my past. Can you tell me about our family? I have been known within our family for longer than I have been alive from what I have gathered, so I want to know who else I can look forward to meeting. Ouch, going straight for the history lesson, are you? Well, I can at least tell you who is in our family. With those words spoken, he began to list off names, titles, and even some dynamics between each person. There were officially 7 true dragons in the world, but 4 had already been killed and had shown no signs of resurrecting. The circumstances vary as to why, but each one has been absent for over 1,000 years, leading to the thought that they wouldn't ever return. The first true dragon was the Star King Dragon, Veldanava. He was the eldest brother of all true dragons and the person who created not only this world, but many others as well. He was the husband of Lucia and the father of Milim, my sister. I was saddened when Veldora said he passed away 2,000 years ago and has yet to return. Hoping that he would show up in the future so that I could meet him, I focused back on the other members. The second true dragon was the Void Empress. She was the eldest sister and the one that held the family together even in the hardest of times. As far as the world was concerned, she died 1,500 years ago, sacrificing herself to stop a calamity like none the world had ever seen before. The third true dragon was the Frost Empress, Velzad. She was the ever-cold woman who only showed her true emotions to those closest to her. Those people only consisted of those within the family itself, be it by being a true dragon or by marriage into the family. Velvet is still alive and well within the world, living with her husband, Guy Crimson. The union was only known by those who studied old legends, as the wedding was apparently something to behold, and not because of how well it went. From the way it was talked about, I had a feeling that Veldora somehow ruined the otherwise good mood. The fourth true dragon was the Scorch Empress, Velgrind. She is said to be quick with her emotions, which are ever in flux, much like the flame of a fire. Velgrind is still alive, living with her partner, Rudra, as he builds his own empire. I was not familiar with world politics, so the fact that she was the partner of the Emperor of the Eastern Empire didn't even dawn on me. The fifth true dragon was the Storm Dragon, Veldora. He needed no introduction, as I had already learned quite a lot about him. His rampages in the days long since past caused humans to fear him. While he eventually stopped rampaging, much to the relief of all races, the loss of his eldest brother caused him to lash out once more in a fit of emotions. The last two were twins, and the daughters of the Void Empress herself. They were the sixth true dragon, the Void Princess, and the seventh true dragon, the Spirit Empress. They were the youngest of the lot, and as such, were given far more attention from all the others. Both twins lost their lives in a great conflict that destroyed many parts of the world. The two were fighting against each other over a difference in how something should be handled. What that something was, no one ever found out. The fight caused so much damage that their mother, the Void Empress, had to step in and stop them, but in doing so, all three were mortally wounded. In her last act before she disappeared, the Void Empress restored the land to how it was before and revived those who were killed as an act of mercy, hoping that her daughters wouldn't be remembered as horrible people. Whether that last act worked or not was up for debate, as there were people on both sides of the discussion, and no clear answer was ever reached without knowing what they were fighting over in the first place. "Hey uncle, why didn't you mention the names for some of them?" I asked, confused as to why some of the names were left out. Veldora scratched his chin a little before responding. "Well, about that. Due to the destruction caused to the world during that time, their names were removed from the memories of everyone. Only a select few immortals remember their names and have vowed to never speak them until they return. The titles are the only way we can refer to them for the time being with those who don't already know them." That sounds complicated. So where do I fit into the family? I didn't hear you say my name while you were listing everyone off. I couldn't help but wonder if one of those titles belonged to me. If true dragons lose their memories after being killed, it would explain why I couldn't remember anything at all. Well, you see, it's quite simple really. I can't tell you where you fall in the family. Before you get all pouty at me about it, it was you yourself who told me, and everyone else, not to tell you anything until you regained your memories, Veldora carefully explained, but not without scooting back a little to give some extra distance between us. Letting out a defeated sigh, I shook my head in annoyance. "Well, that is stupid. Why would I tell you not to tell me about myself? If I ever meet the past version of me, I'm going to smack her silly." "You do that. I would like to know the reasoning behind it as well, but you, or she, would never tell me." Veldora let out a nervous chuckle at the memory, even while keeping a close eye on Katarina. "It's settled then. I will meet all those in our family who are still alive so that I can get to know them as well." With a bright smile, I declared this to Veldora, but for some reason, he had a look of fear in his eyes for a brief moment. "I hope the others come back soon so I can meet them as well," I continued, undisturbed by Veldora's momentary lapse in composure. Third-person POV. With the main conversation over and the atmosphere relaxed, the rest of the time was spent talking about things that didn't matter. Ifrit added his thoughts on the dynamics between the family members and theorized with Katarina about why so much information was being kept secret. Veldora joined in their conversations, sometimes adding his own thoughts, but mostly staying quiet about the matter so that he didn't accidentally reveal too much. Instead, he slowly directed the conversation towards other topics like games and the sacred texts. "I think my time is up for tonight. I'll try to visit again at some point, but it seems random as to when I am pulled here during my sleep. With a cheerful wave, Katarina disappeared and slowly woke up in her bed. She is gone now. It's too bad, as I had fun talking with her, Veldora said, even as he watched the spot where Katarina sat moments before. Ifrit slowly stood up and stretched out before speaking. So she is. It was an enlightening conversation, to be sure. Who knew there were 7 true dragons in the world at one point? About that, 7 is the official number humans use. There are actually 6. The twins, the Void Princess and the Spirit Empress, were the same person. The 2 titles reflected the dual personality she had, and those personalities are why the humans thought the 2 of them were different people, Veldora elaborated now that there was no one else to hear. As for the position Katarina held within the family, it's complicated. She was cursed to reincarnate every time she died, so the form she took in one life could be completely different than in the next. The true sign that it's her is that chaotic aura, which is the same regardless of what form she takes, Veldora continued, still not giving a clear answer as to her place. Ifrit nodded and let the topic pass completely. I see. Well, I won't ask you any more in that case. It was interesting to learn about everything regardless, and being a spirit, I am interested in how the title of Spirit Empress came about. With the conversation dissipating, the 2 focused on a game of shogi. They were both oblivious to another presence listening in on the whole conversation. It was none other than Great Sage, and she was conflicted on how much she should tell her master. The family history would be interesting enough, but the knowledge of Katarina being forced to reincarnate repeatedly was something she couldn't decide on. It was possible that her master would accept the information without issue, but with how much he cared about her, it was more likely he would have strong emotions about it. Having decided to withhold the information about the reincarnations for the time being, Great Sage focused back on the outside world as her master was waking up. The conclusion she had come to was that what he didn't know couldn't hurt him, and if Katarina somehow died, then it could be used as reassurance to calm her master down. Chapter 10 Charybdis. Third-person POV. A man dressed in finely tailored and clearly expensive clothing sat sipping tea. The room was decorated with only the highest quality pieces of work, which was evident with a single glance. Furniture made by famous craftsmen, carpets woven from the finest of materials, and paintings that seemed to be alive all filled the room where the tall, thin man sat today. Everything is going to plan. After gaining her knowledge, I can stand to get rid of Mjurin, as she is largely useless in battle, the man mused. Mjurin had just sent in a report, saying that she was discovered by the demon lord Milim Nova while scouting out the Jura forest where the orc lord incident took place. If anything, he would see Milim killing her as a blessing because he wouldn't have to waste his own time to do so. As terrible as always, aren't you, Clayman? You need to treat your tools properly, lest they fall apart on you, a young girl said while stepping out of the shadows in the corner of the room. The girl was dressed in a bright pink outfit and wore a mask with a teardrop design on it, giving the impression that the wearer was sad. With magenta hair tied into short twin tails and decorative red horns, she stood out next to Clayman, who was dressed in a fine white suit. Oh, back already, Tear? That was fast, Clayman stated as he set the tea down carefully. Yep. Mission complete, although it was harder than normal as I couldn't move around as freely in Demon Lord Fry's territory, Tear said cheerfully. That is good. The operation in the forest has been going smoothly as well. Milim is fully distracted by the magic born and seems to be enjoying herself. I don't think she will be an issue for the time being, so we can move ahead with our plans, Clayman said, a soft smile evident in his voice. That is good. Are the magic born really that interesting? I haven't seen the recordings you have, Tear responded curiously. Clayman thought for a moment before answering. They are weak, so we can take them out whenever we want. They aren't that big of a deal. Anyway, tell me about your investigation. Fry doesn't seem to want to get involved in the forest, and she is on high alert. She seems to be worried about Charybdis reviving, of all things. Tear reported cheerfully. Interesting. I would like you to find where it is sealed and see about bringing it to our side if you can. Clayman, nodding to himself, took another sip of tea. You got it, boss, leave it to me. I'll bring Footman along too just in case. Tear, standing up quickly, disappeared into thin air. Katarina's POV. I was walking with Milim as we travelled through the forest with Caval's team, looking for monsters to hunt down for dinner. Things were going so well that I got lost in my thoughts as we walked, all the monsters around us being too weak to worry about. Over the past several weeks, Dad has mostly left handling Milim to me, and I don't mind since she is my sister, after all. I also wanted to help make his life easier. Plus, it had the bonus effect of keeping me out of the political stuff between Dad and Fuse. I will have to learn politics eventually, won't I? Well, I can always do that later when we start getting formally recognized on the world scale. Such were my thoughts, and no, I wasn't just putting it off. Milim is always so energetic and wanting to learn new things, so each day we had to try a new task. So far, she has helped plough the fields, harvest some crops, attempt to craft a weapon, and somehow broken an anvil. One good thing that had come out of me escorting her around is that she no longer breaks every door she opens, so the property damage has been kept mostly to a minimum. The only problem is I had a nagging thought in the back of my mind. It has been far too quiet for far too long. Isn't it about time something major happened to cause chaos once more? That is how things work around here. Once we all get comfortable, someone comes around to stir up trouble, like Gazelle or Milim. Coming out of my thoughts as we ran into a blade tiger, it was quickly killed and added to the collection. With both Sis and me here, it was a bit of, they could be quite the gentlemen when they wanted to be, and it was good that they were strong as well, seeing how many monsters we had already hunted down. With the makeshift packs bulging outward and already bigger than the two men were, I decided that it was about time we head back. After all, it would suck if they got worn out and we had to carry them instead. Hey sis, why don't we head back for now? We have already collected more than enough monsters for both food and materials, I said, trying to catch Milim's attention. Milim turned to look back with a big smile while she responded. Okay. I want to get some lunch anyway. Hey Dad, we are headed back now. You might want to have some lunch prepared, as Sis is hungry after a hard day's work hunting monsters. I shot off a thought communication ahead of us so that we wouldn't have to wait for food once we got back home. The forest was much more peaceful now that the hostile monsters in a large area were taken out, and I got to enjoy the walk back without a worry in the world. The birds were singing, small animals were darting about, and the trees offered a quiet sense of belonging. The trees were large and majestic, offering a testament to their long life and strength, but at the same time, they radiated a sense of peace that always helped to ground me. The forest, I had found, was the perfect place to go when I needed time to think about something, or to simply relax and ignore everything around. Breaking through the trees, we walked towards the town. Dad was already there ready to greet us, while being held by Shen in his slime form. Lifting my hand, I gave a quick wave and felt a smile dance on my lips as he returned the gesture. Wahahaha! Another bumper crop today. Milim called out. Milim and Katarina sure helped a lot. Hunting was so easy with the two of them, Anne said as she followed behind us. That was a hard day's work. Milim can spot monsters easily, and Katarina can take them out in a single hit. Caval supplied while setting his pack down. Why don't the two of you go get cleaned up? I would hate for you to remain dirty. You can hit the hot springs and relax after that, Dad said happily. The next moment, Milim, Shen, and I turned to face the forest, ready for an attack as we felt a strong presence nearby. I didn't detect any hostilities coming from the person in question, and activating my soul sight, I confirmed this. The person was strong, but peaceful to us. However, the rage in their soul was unnerving and it set me on edge. Who's there? Show yourself, Milim called out towards the figure. At some point, Ronga, Benimaru, and Sue appeared behind us, ready for anything. Hakuru was also here, but standing next to the trees mostly out of sight, meaning most of the powerhouses in Tempest were gathered in one place. After a second of pause, a dryad walked out of the trees. Although her form was hazy, it was easy to tell that this was Trainee's younger sister. I was concerned, as it looked like she took some damage that resulted in her form weakening, but I couldn't tell what had caused it. After casting my sight over as much of the forest as I could, I didn't detect anything that was powerful enough to harm a dryad. It's been a while, Trya. May I ask why you look like you are ready to kill someone? Dad spoke up, clearly wanting to get to the bottom of this sudden appearance. Yes, it has been. Unfortunately, this is an emergency. Charybdis, a calamity-class monster, has revived itself. My sisters are keeping it immobile for the time being, but I am here to warn you so that you can prepare. Charybdis is the master of the sky, and as such, ground forces will do little against it. I suggest that you form an aerial force immediately, Trya said, fatigue clear on her face as she explained. Fuse was the first to react to the news. The name Charybdis knocked him back to his senses after seeing a dryad had made his brain stop working. With the blood drained from his face, he shouted, Charybdis. Oh man, if it's really revived, it's a bigger threat than a demon lord. You can't reason with it, and it goes around mindlessly wreaking havoc all around itself. During the explanation, I stood to the side, listening eagerly. Maybe Dad will finally let me help defend our city. I mean, we can certainly use all the help we can get, and I can fly. It was decided that we would move the discussion to the meeting room after some of the details of Charybdis were explained, and it was quite daunting already. It could summon megalodons to help it in battle, and each one was ranked as an A rank, making them formidable. Charybdis itself would naturally be stronger, so this would be a hard fight either way. Rimuru's POV. Honestly, what a headache this has turned into. A demon lord level threat appearing out of nowhere and heading here of all places. Kat is clearly excited for this, judging from how little she tried to hide it earlier. I have no doubt she will want to join the fight, too, I thought as we walked towards the meeting room. Master should allow Katarina to join in on the fight so she gains more experience, Great Sage suggested. No, absolutely not. I am not going to let her face a foe that we have little chance of winning against. What the hell is Great Sage thinking, making a suggestion like that? Letting out a sigh, I walked into the meeting room and settled into my chair. Everyone else quickly filed in and took their places around the large table. Along with those who were present earlier, Gabiru and Vesta were both in attendance as well. What do we do, Sir Rimuru? Benimaru asked. Well, we will kill it, of course, I said, mustering up the courage I didn't feel on the inside. Katarina gave me a worried look, no doubt seeing my state of unrest with her skill, before speaking up. Then I will help. We will need all the strength we can muster, so no one can be left behind. There it was, the suggestion I knew would be coming. No, you will not be joining. You can watch from a safe distance, but I don't want you involved in the fight itself. I felt guilty for shooting her down as the excitement in her eyes quickly morphed into disappointment, sadness, and hurt. I knew she wanted to join and help, but I also had a responsibility as her father to make sure that she was always safe. I let her hunt monsters in the forest because I knew that she would always be protected, so that was a different story entirely from what we are currently facing. Seeing Katarina sit back in her chair, suddenly quiet and unwilling to contribute anything else, I swore to myself that I would make it up to her later. Focusing back on everyone else, I started issuing orders for my group to prepare, and for Vesta to send a warning and request for aid to Dworgen for us. Charybdis is a Demon Lord class threat. Do you not understand how strong it is? Fuse spoke up, clearly distressed. We can't expect any help from Bloomond if we stalled, can we? It's not like we are fighting to lose, but there is no other choice right now, I stated calmly. Not fighting to lose? Not even the Dryads can handle this monster. Now is no time for your easygoing attitude. This calls for an international response, Fuse responded, seemingly even more distressed. I sent everyone off to do their own tasks while I talked with Fuse and Cavil's team, as every second counted. Katarina and Milim headed off to the hot springs with Shen, and their devotion to routine helped to keep everyone else calm. The threat of an enemy about to attack us wasn't their concern anyway, as Milim wasn't a resident and I wouldn't let Katarina join. I spent the next little while trying to reassure Fuse while I relaxed in my seat in slime form. My efforts weren't completely in vain, as he seemed to calm down a little, although not completely. After talking for a little while, he made the sudden comment that it was hard to wrap his mind around a slime being the strongest monster here, and that I acted a lot like a human. With the conversation shifting, I knew it was time to reveal something I had kept hidden for a while now. I had mostly used my slime form around Fuse and Cavill's team because I was dreading the conversation, but now was as good a time as any to get it out of the way. You might find this hard to believe, but I used to be a human. I was reincarnated here from the same world as Shizu. While we are talking about this, I said as I jumped out of the seat and transformed into my human form. Ellen, being as sharp as ever, was the first one to catch on. What? You look just like a mini Shizu. Cavill and Guido said something about me being cute, but I just ignored them. I removed the mask from my pocket and set it down on the table in front of them. That is Shizu's mask, isn't it? Aaron said. Yeah, that is right. I inherited it from her when I ate her, just like this form you see. I didn't take this form around you because I didn't want you to get the wrong idea, I answered, a note of sadness in my voice as I remembered past events. Over the next few minutes, I told them about Shizu's last moments and her request. I promised to settle all her unfinished regrets, after all, so I couldn't go around acting like an ass while looking like her. They were all shocked when I called Leon my prey, but Aaron took it in stride. The others said I had a death wish and that Charybdis was a pushover compared to Leon. It was clear that they were unnerved, but our little heart-to-heart seemed to end with them trusting me wholeheartedly. They did offer to help during the fight, but I quickly turned them down. I didn't want to get them involved in issues that concerned my nation, after all. I instead told them that if we failed, they would need to come up with a new plan to deal with the disaster, which got them to relent fairly quickly. Katarina's POV. Charybdis was fast approaching, but everything was already prepared as best we could, given the short time we had. I found myself sitting against a tree, listening to the conversations going on around us. It was clear that this would be a hard fight, and Dad wanted to learn everything possible about our enemy before we engaged. Maybe if things get bad enough, I will be allowed to join the fight, although I already plan to attack it at least once. Please don't do anything too reckless, Great Sage communicated. I just want to test out a new weapon, nothing too reckless. You realize that Master will be mad at you if you do this, right? Yes, he probably will be. I just want to show him that I'm not a weak little girl. I know I am a princess, but he is a king, so why does he get to fight and I don't? You know the answer to that just as well as I do. I let out a sigh. I was too weak to protect those I cared about before, and now I'm not even allowed to try. Listening back to the conversation at hand, I heard something interesting. Charybdis is Veldora's child? Does that mean she is my cousin? Wait, so that thing is Uncle's child? Why does it act like a mindless beast if that is the case? I asked, catching everyone off guard with my question. Charybdis doesn't have an ego. If it did, then this would be a lot easier, as it could be reasoned with, trainee supplied. I wonder if it's possible to give it an ego. Well, either way, we don't have a choice but to fight it for now, I guess. Disappointed, I leaned back against the tree again. Charybdis seemed to have some nasty abilities when it came to defense. First, it had magic interference, which reduced the effect of all magic-based attacks, and flight-based magic cancellation. If someone had wings, they could still fly, as it used a different form of magic at least, which meant the Dragonoots and Dad could still fly in its area. Seriously? I guess flame broiling it with ranged attacks will be tough, Benimaru said, annoyance laced in his words. It seems likely, my brother. If magicule-driven attacks won't work on it, that puts a rather large restriction on our offense, Shuna answered, as calm as ever. Heh. Aren't you guys forgetting something important? Don't tell me you've forgotten who I am. Some big fish isn't going to stop me, so let me give it a heck of a beating. Milim jumped up, already dressed in battle gear, as she chimed in. I could see the hope on Dad's face the moment he considered the option, only for it to be dashed away by Shen. I'm sorry, Milim, but we can't allow that. It'll put you in a bind, so Rimuru. This is an issue for us to handle ourselves. Shuna butted in as well. She's right. It'd be a mistake to rely on her for everything just because she's our friend. But if Sir Rimuru is in serious trouble, we will gladly ask for her support then. Ha ha, sorry Milim, but you heard them. Just trust in me, okay? Dad said. I was glad that I wasn't the only one being turned down for this fight. At least I could talk with Sis while we watched. I did notice how Dad's soul cried out in distress when he turned Milim down, though. It was clear he was more than ready to accept her assistance before the others stepped in to stop it. I decided that I should try to calm Milim down a little. You can stay with me here, Sis, and we can watch the fight together. After giving a quick hug to Milim, we settled back down and started to chat with each other. With the two of us no longer allowed to join the fight, it didn't seem important to listen to the rest of the details, as we had already heard everything there was to hear about Charybdis itself. It didn't take much longer for the action to start, which managed to draw our attention, though. Looking up into the sky, I smiled. Well, it looks like it is about to start. I'm interested to see what everyone is capable of now. With a cheerful attitude, Benimaru kicked things off. This is where the fun begins, Hellflare. I watched as a black sphere with a 300-foot radius exploded around Charybdis and a megalodon, engulfing them in flame. When the attack cleared, we could see the megalodon that was caught in the attack falling to the ground, severely burnt. Charybdis, on the other hand, had a few scales burnt off, which were quickly replaced, and took no other damage. You are kidding me. I put my all into that attack, Benimaru said, frustrated. With the first attack fired off, everyone else started to move according to the plan they had made. The megalodons would be the first targets, so when the Pegasus Knights from Dworgen arrived, everyone could focus on a single target. The knights numbered 100 and were all a rank, with 400 more preparing to move out as soon as possible. Geld was the next to launch an attack after Benimaru. His forces consisted of the elites, as it was determined that anyone under B rank would just be a hindrance in a battle against strong foes. I had to agree with that assessment after seeing the monsters firsthand, and the last thing I wanted was for people to get killed. The megalodon was able to easily uproot trees in its path, defeating the purpose of trying to lead it into the forest to slow its movements. As a result of this miscalculation, several high orcs were hurt while trying to evade. While moving slowly, the shark-like creature could fly freely through the air, making it unpredictable at best. Geld, seeing his men hurt, turned and caught the megalodon's head, holding it in place so that the rest of his people could attack. While they were able to cause damage, it wasn't nearly fast enough. They are damaging it too slowly. It's too big for the orcs to land a decisive blow, I said while watching Geld's display of incredible strength. Right after I spoke up, I watched as the orcs were flung away by the thrashing megalodon, causing them to be too injured to continue. With his men out of action, Geld put more pressure on the head, which only resulted in more violent thrashing. Thankfully, Gabiru flew in right at this moment. I will assist you. With a flash of light, the megalodon was killed in a single blow, leaving 11 left to deal with. The rest of Gabiru's group were healing Geld's group with full potions they had developed recently as well, meaning there were no casualties. With the two groups teaming up, they successfully killed 2 more megalodons during the fight without much worry for injury. Speaking out loud my observations, I couldn't help but admire the teamwork. Those two worked together well. Yeah, they treated those monsters like they were nothing, Milim spoke up beside me. Gopta's group of wolf riders were engaged in a fight themselves at this point, playing cat and mouse with a megalodon that they had successfully lured towards the ground. Each group of 5 riders was taking turns acting as bait and attacking from all sides, slowly building up damage. Hakuru was also there cheering them on, or maybe this was just a hellish training. I couldn't really tell, as the two sides seemed to have completely different outlooks on the situation. They look like they are having so much fun. Are you sure I can't join, Rimuru? Milim, with a twinkle in her eye, tried to ask for permission once more. No, Milim. If we can't beat it on our own, then we will ask for your help, Dad shot back, seemingly tired of answering the same question several times over. Up in the sky, Sue used shadow motion from the shadows cast by his team to move on top of 5 separate megalodons. I was interested to see how he fought, as he was rarely in the training grounds and I never got to see his skills outside of shadow movement. I was amazed when he used magic threads to latch onto the megalodons' nervous systems and started to puppet them around. His foot clones made their mounts attack each other and told his team to finish them off when the time was right. Meanwhile, he started to fly straight at Charybdis itself. Sokka and her group managed to kill the megalodons off once they were weak enough, leaving 5 more to go, with goblin riders distracting one of them. Shun and Ronga teamed up next, and with all the executives outside of Shuna participating in the fight, I couldn't help but feel jealous. Ronga was running on thin air, creating footholds with his wind manipulation abilities, the 2 of them flying high into the sky. Once they were above a megalodon, Ronga started to dive bomb towards it and into the magic interference area, leaving them unable to fly. Shun, on the other hand, had already drawn her sword and was prepared to attack. Shun, having lengthened and strengthened her blade with her aura, shouted as they flew past, "Behold! Decapitating demon blade!" With the megalodon's head being sliced clean off and the magic interference being cancelled, Ronga used lightning to burn its body. The 2 of them continued like this, taking care of the last 2 unoccupied megalodons before focusing their attention on Charybdis itself along with Sue. No fair, why do they get to have all the fun? I want to join in on the fight, too, I said dejectedly. Dad, having turned towards me, spoke up. No, you aren't joining the fight, Katarina. I gave a little huff and continued to watch, disappointed. With Hakuru killing the megalodon that the goblin riders were playing with and Sue using the last one to attack Charybdis directly, the main fight was about to start. Shun busted out her ogre cannon at full power, and while it did some damage, it was not enough to be decisive. Looking back towards the people left on the command hill, I could see they were all distressed by the outcome. So, neither magical nor physical attacks are enough to deal serious damage to it, Trainee could be heard saying. Milim, sitting up once more, chimed in, no doubt trying to get approval to play with it. This is why I said you should have just left it to me. Dad ignored her comment, so I decided to comfort her once more. I'm sure they will ask for your help eventually, sis. Charybdis' eye flashed red while we were speaking, causing Benimaru to speak up. Its eye just flashed red, it might be a sign that it is preparing for an attack. The next moment, with Sue, Ronga, and Shun retreating a little bit, the air was filled with a sound like fingernails on glass. The deafening roar of sound forced me to cover my ears from the onslaught and put up a barrier around myself to dampen the noise as well. Charybdis' scales started to shoot out from its body in all directions in a devastating attack that threatened everything around it. Milim started to provide some commentary on the situation. Oh, so this is Tempest scale. I have never seen that before. It was obvious that Dad was annoyed this information wasn't shared sooner, but with the threat bearing down on the 3 closest to it, he didn't have time to ask more. I couldn't hear what they were saying over the scales hitting the ground, but it was clear they were arguing over something instead of retreating to a safe distance. I was starting to worry if they would be okay when Dad disappeared from his spot and appeared in front of them, ready to eat the scales with gluttony. A black cloud appeared in front of everyone and swallowed the scales easily, clearing the sky of the attack in front of them. I couldn't help but shake my head a little at the display and vowed to practice the skills I inherited even more so that I could master them. While Dad moved to attack Charybdis directly, I watched closely, wondering how he would get through the magic interference, as there was little way he could use a sword to cause lethal damage. Notice: Master is encasing the skills in magic bullets to protect from the interference, Great Sage informed me. Oh, really? Thanks. Maybe I can use that same method then. What are you planning? Just a single attack, don't worry. Like I said, I want to test out a new weapon, and now a new ability. With a broad smile on my lips, I pulled out a recurve bow, made from pure magisteel, from my stomach and strung a matching arrow. "Hey Dad, you might want to avoid the direct line between me and the fishy for a moment," I said, using thought communication. I had imbued the arrow with several types of skills, starting with black flame at the tip, black thunder just behind it, and then other skills like paralysis and poison, before wrapping the entire thing in a protective magic casing. I was ready to fire as Dad responded to my comment. "What the hell are you planning? I told you to stay out of this." "Sorry, but it's just one attack. I am putting my all into it so you won't have to worry about me attacking again," I said cheerfully. Without waiting for a reply, I released the arrow. Between the bow's immense strength, which required me to use body strength and just to pull back the string, and my wind manipulation, the arrow flew straight and true. It took longer than I would have liked to cover the vast distance, but because Charybdis was moving slowly and was so massive, it didn't matter. The arrow was going to hit. With the arrow fired, I fell to the ground, breathing heavily as I watched my attack find its target. Upon impact with Charybdis' single eye, the arrow exploded into a massive black fireball. Black electricity spread out from the point of impact, and several different elemental clouds appeared. Once the magical effects dissipated, I could practically hear Dad's shout of shock at the damage. The once massive eye now had a large crater taken out of it, with black flame and black thunder crawling along its surface, stopping its regeneration for a moment. Having caught my breath, I put my bow away and admired my handiwork for a moment, even as I noticed the Pegasus Knights closing the distance, ready to attack. "What the hell was that?" I heard Dad shouting at me through our link. With a small smirk, I looked toward where he flew. "Just a new weapon, and I borrowed your technique for getting magic to work for extra effectiveness. I can't do it again, though, as I spent the vast majority of my magicules on it." "You are still getting scolded later, but good job," he reluctantly responded. "Geez, I'm wiped. The magic is already dissipating as well, meaning the eye will start to heal before too much longer." I spoke to no one in particular as I lay on the ground, trying to recover. Benimaru, who was standing close by, responded to my comment. "To think you had that much power ready to tap into. You truly are Sir Rimuru's kid. Sadly, it does seem to be regenerating as you said, so the damage won't last forever." Sitting back upright, I tilted my head in confusion. I didn't think to activate Soul Sight earlier, but now that I had, I was trying to figure out why Charybdis had a soul inside of it. "Great Sage, why does Charybdis have a soul? I thought it was egoless." Report. Unknown. It is indeed strange, however. I will bring it up with Master. I can't tell whose soul it is, but it feels familiar. Well, I can't do anything more here, and I have given what information I have to Dad already. Maybe it would be best to go do something else while the fight rages on, just in case the eye heals fully and it starts to target me. I said my goodbyes to the group left on the hill, with Milim already dozing off under the tree, and took my leave. "Can you let Dad know that I will be exploring the forest, please?" "Consider it done. If you are bored, you can try mapping the trails and settlements in the forest." "Oh, good idea. That will certainly help keep me occupied." With Great Sage offering excellent advice, I started flying toward the forest, away from the fight itself. Rimuru's POV. Honestly, I told her to stay out of the fight and she launches a massive attack instead. What is she thinking? I shook myself out of the shock and looked at the damage, unable to help but admire it a little bit. She aimed for the weakest part of Charybdis and managed to do massive damage because of it. I had a feeling that Magisteel arrow she used will never be seen again, though. Notice. Katarina has detected a soul within Charybdis. Reason unknown. Well, Trainee said it needed to possess a body to act like this in our world for long periods of time. This is most likely the reason. However, she mentioned it feeling familiar. She was unable to say who it belonged to, though. Well, there is nothing we can do about that right now. We will just have to keep fighting regardless, as it is mindlessly attacking everything. Agreed. With the short exchange over, I went back to attacking with everything I had, even as I watched the eye slowly start to heal once more. The damage wouldn't last forever, and judging from the scream it issued when the arrow struck, it was going to be pissed. Thankfully, the Pegasus Knights had arrived and were ready to help. Master, Katarina is leaving the battlefield. Good. I don't want her trying to get involved again. Over the next 10 hours, it was a constant, grueling fight as we slowly damaged Charybdis. We had barely managed to deal 30% of its health in damage so far, and the fatigue was starting to show on everyone after such a grueling marathon. GRNHHHR. Why you? Me. Did I just hear something? It sounded like Charybdis spoke. Curse you. Me mealy. Milim. Wait, Milim? Meaning it's not after me after all. Hearing this, I couldn't help but think I could finally push this fight onto Milim instead of dealing with it myself. Understood. It seems the soul that Katarina detected earlier had strong feelings keeping it from fully merging with Charybdis. Due to this, Charybdis has been directed toward the target of the host's anger. Milim, did you hear that? This guy has a score to settle with you, so it's all yours, I said, waking her up from her nap. I could see her jumping up from the tree even while she answered. Oh yeah. It looks like Charybdis is using Phobio, the black leopard fang, as its core. Well, sorry for keeping you idle. I thought this was our guest to handle, I responded while taking note of where everyone was. Wait, so that means I can handle this, maybe? Milim excitedly asked. Letting out a sigh of relief that I no longer had to deal with this mess, I replied, Yup, it's all yours. That said, Phobio works for Carrion, doesn't he? Can you spit him out while destroying the monster? Wahahaha. You got it. That'll be a cinch for me. I've learned how to hold back my power a little lately, too. Milim appeared next to me after answering, a bright smile on her face. Okay, everyone. Retreat for the time being. I called out to everyone still in the area. So Rimuru, we have hardly given up. Dolph said disbelievingly. I knew he didn't know what was about to be released, but that didn't mean I was going to let people get caught in the crossfire. Please, just do as I say. Retreat for the time being and get out of here. With both the Pegasus Knights and my own people having fallen back behind the area of destruction that was about to be released, I gave the all clear to Milim. All yours, Milim. She cheerfully replied even as Charybdis called out her name. You got it. The next moment, I watched as a torrent of bluish-white light rushed from Milim. The words Drago Buster could be heard as the attack traveled fast and true. Cannot analyze. Collecting data. Failed. Great Sage sounded surprised by this outcome, but the result was clear. Charybdis disappeared in a flash of light while a small piece fell from the sky where it once flew. The piece was, in fact, Phobio, and I needed to act quickly before Charybdis could revive itself once more, as it still had a vessel. Catching Phobio, I lowered him to the ground and kneeled over him. Placing my hand on his chest, I started using Gluttony to absorb Charybdis's core, and with the help of Great Sage, it was slowly placed inside of my isolated space. The process was a little like surgery. Normally, it would be impossible to run two skills in parallel like this, but with Great Sage controlling the skills, I could focus on the actual task at hand. After what felt like forever, I finally got the confirmation I was waiting for. Report. The magical core of the individual Charybdis has successfully been separated from the individual Phobio. Consuming the magical core of Charybdis? Successful. Analyzing core? Partially failed. Isolating and continuing to analyze. Sitting back and letting out a sigh after finishing, I took a potion out and gave it to Phobio before I forgot. While waiting for him to recover, Dolph came over with curiosity written all over his face. Do you mind explaining what just happened? If you had a weapon capable of outputting that much power, I wish you had informed us about it sooner, Dolph said, looking a little annoyed at me. Aha, well, would you believe me if I told you this girl was Demon Lord Milim? I said while pointing toward her. Ha ha ha, you certainly enjoy your jokes, Sir Rimuru, he responded, but his eyes weren't laughing. Well, Charybdis was defeated, so that is what really matters right now. I gave a thankful smile that he wasn't pressing the issue for now. I will provide my own report to King Gazelle shortly. My comment seemed to remind him of something as he spoke up once more. Might I ask you to provide the report in person? The exile has already been lifted for you and the dwarf brothers, and I am sure His Majesty would be overjoyed if you all came to visit. Very well. Tell King Gazelle that I would love to be extended an official invitation, I said, even as I saw Katarina walking toward us from the forest. With Dolph and the Pegasus Knights leaving back toward Dworgen, I shifted back into my slime form and relaxed for a second. I saw the attack that was launched even from across the forest. Is the fight over? Katarina asked while walking up to us. Yes, Milim took care of it in the end, I gave a brief response, not wanting to go into the details. Katarina turned toward Milim and spoke up with a wide smile. See? I told you they would ask for your help eventually. Katarina then started asking about why I was exiled from a nation, no doubt having heard Dolph with her incredibly sensitive hearing. I promised to explain it to her later while we prepared to head back home, not wanting to get into the story here when everyone was so tired. Phobio let out a groan as he woke up. What happened? Where am I? Hey there. You up? Do you remember what you did? I spoke slowly to the bleary-eyed Phobio. He suddenly jumped up and prostrated himself in front of me before speaking. I'm sorry. I've done something horrible to you, Lady Milim, and I've caused a lot of trouble for all of you a second time. Oh, so the little kitty is finally seeing that he did something wrong. Katarina spoke up with a mischievous light in her eyes. Oh geez, is she really going to tease him at a time like this? I mean, she is smaller than he is, after all. Shaking my head, I was about to ask what drove him to do this before Trainee cut in, asking how he found Charybdis' seal. What followed was an in-depth conversation about everything that had happened. Phobio answered every question we asked without resisting and explained that 2 clowns led him to the location. These clowns were connected to the latest events in the forest, like the Orc Lord invasion, and were generally causing trouble for us. They were called the Moderate Harlequin Alliance. Maybe Clayman was involved. It is just like him to pull the strings from behind the scenes like this, Milim piped up. Something does bother me. This Laplace, he said he wasn't among the monster tribes. He might have supporters in human society, Trainee offered after Milim was done speaking. We will have to keep an eye out for these clowns going forward, but it sounds like Phobio isn't completely at fault. It sounded like he had just been taken advantage of by someone else, so I had no issue letting him off the hook just this once. Well, it sounds like they really used and abused you. Try to be a bit more careful going forward, okay? I said, looking down at Phobio. Phobio was clearly shocked by what was just said. I don't deserve to be forgiven. I accepted this offer of my own accord. Lord Carrion has nothing to do with this, so please, allow me to pay with my life. After a quick back and forth where we basically forced him to accept our forgiveness, I noticed that Katarina was acting strangely and looking out into the nearby forest. What's wrong? Whoever is hiding, come out now, Katarina called out in the direction she was looking. I was confused at first, as I didn't sense anyone, but a tall, muscular man soon walked out from behind the trees. So, you notice me, huh? Little lycanthrope. He was dressed in a well-tailored but well-worn outfit. His short blonde hair stood up on end, and his sharp eyes filled with intelligence only added to the intense atmosphere. Hey, the name is Carrion. Thank you for helping my idiot subordinate out, Carrion greeted me while keeping his eyes locked on mine. I felt the air grow tense with his presence. After taking a moment to gather my courage, I spoke up. I wasn't expecting you to show up here yourself. My name is Rimuru Tempest, the leader of Tempest, our nation of monsters here in the forest, I declared, sounding more confident than I felt. I was reminded that the title of Demon Lord wasn't just for show, it truly meant something. The strength of the person in front of me was intimidating to say the least, but he didn't seem to have any ill intentions either. Phut! A single magic born establishing a new nation? I might have believed it in the past, but in this day and age, you must be suicidal to even try. Well, I was told our mysterious masked magic born was killed by the Orc Lord, but it doesn't seem that was the case. You are the one who killed Gelmud, aren't you? Carrion said with laughter in his eyes. How the hell did he get the idea that I was a magic born while looking like a slime? Transforming into my human form, I spoke up once more. That's right. Are you here to take revenge for him? Carrion laughed out loud at this, and the tension I felt dissipated instantly. Ah, thanks for the good laugh. No, I'm here to apologize for my subordinate causing so much trouble for you. If there is anything I can help you with, feel free to ask. I thought I heard Katarina saying something about wishing her arrow had fired deeper to hit Phobio, but I ignored it and focused on the conversation at hand. If he is offering anything, then that could work. How about a non-aggression pact between our nations then? I asked, not really expecting him to agree so easily. Much to my shock, he agreed instantly, and we promised to send delegates to each other's nations at a later date to work out the details. I was a little worried when he turned his eyes on Katarina, and I couldn't help but think he was annoyed she had spotted him. Well, little lady, if you want, I will allow you to punish Phobio yourself, seeing as you still seem annoyed with him, he said, taking a step away. Katarina didn't waste the chance. She dashed forward faster than I could react and landed a powerful kick straight into Phobio's stomach, effectively knocking him out. Much appreciated. Dad wouldn't let me join in on the fight, so I have been dying to get a good hit or two in. Slinging Phobio over his shoulder, Carrion let out another laugh. I like you. It's too bad you didn't join me, as I can see the promise you hold. With that, he turned around and teleported back home. Katarina's POV. Things went back to normal after a few days, and Dad never did scold me for attacking Charybdis, for which I am glad. With the calmer days came a lot of political developments. Fuse went back home and started to work on getting the people in his nation to accept us, and preparations were being made for our envoys to the Beast Kingdom of Eurasania. I stayed out of the politics for the most part, but I would get dragged into it from time to time while helping Dad with his work. I didn't mind most of the time, as I was able to avoid the worst of the meetings, leaving me free to do as I pleased. Dad gained new skills from absorbing Charybdis's core, and I inherited them through our link as well, which made me very happy. The skills were magic interference, gravity flight, and resist magic. Each one was extremely useful if the fight we finished a couple of days ago was anything to go by. With renewed vigor, Dad, Sue, Benimaru, and myself launched ourselves into training with Milim so that we could get stronger. After meeting 2 demon lords, it seemed like everyone was eager to gain more strength to help protect Tempest. While I didn't think I would ever be allowed to join real fights, I still trained just in case. The meals provided by Shuna and the other cooks were slowly being diversified as well, much to the excitement of Milim and myself. Each new meal gave us new tastes and experiences that wouldn't soon be forgotten. Between the training and good food, everyone's strength was slowly growing to the point where they were almost unrecognizable. I was becoming more confident in myself and our ability to protect our home regardless of who attacked us. This naturally excluded Demon Lord level threats, however. The major shift happened after the training had improved us all. I was walking home with Dad and Milim when she suggested that Dad could declare himself a Demon Lord right now. I have no interest in becoming a Demon Lord. Why did you become one in the first place, Milim? Dad asked, curiosity coloring his words. I was also interested to hear her story, as she never talked about the past. When it came to me especially, it was like my past was a completely banned topic. I don't know. Something bad happened? Maybe. It was a really long time ago, so I don't really remember, Milim answered half-heartedly. I didn't want to see her sad by digging up memories she would rather forget, so I diverted the conversation. Hey sis, do you have any family outside of Uncle Veldora and myself? Milim seemed to cheer up a little as she thought about it. I do have some family members, yes. I don't talk to them that often, though, because they are always busy with something. I felt my interest rising. If she had other family members, then that meant I did as well by extension. I would love to meet them sometime if that is possible. I bet they are all strong, but caring like you. Yeah. I'm sure they would love to meet you, sis. Maybe in the future, I can introduce you to them, she said with a big smile. Several days later. Okay, well, I'm off to work, Milim declared suddenly. Leaving so suddenly? Dad asked her. Yup. I am going to talk with the other demon lords, and don't worry, I will tell them not to mess with this place, she happily answered. I was warring with my own thoughts while this exchange took place. I was glad that she was able to live her life so freely, but at the same time, I was sad that she would be gone. I had come to enjoy her presence a lot, and it felt like we were a true family for a little while. Pushing my sadness down, I did my best to act cheerfully. Do be careful, sis. You are welcome back here anytime, so do make sure to come visit. Milim turned to me with a smile, and we embraced for a hug. I will. Don't worry, sis, nothing is going to happen to me. With that confident statement and our goodbyes exchanged, she flew off into the sky, quickly disappearing below the horizon. It's going to be lonely without her here, I said, looking off into the distance where she vanished. Third-person POV. In the north, there was a continent covered in permafrost where no mortal person would be able to survive. It was here that a pink streak of light was seen flying through the sky on its way to the ice castle situated toward the center of the continent. With a ground-shaking landing and a crater to match, Milim landed in front of the doors to the castle just as a young woman opened them. She looked to be a teenager dressed in a blue and white dress with detached white sleeves and blue knee-high boots. Her snow-white hair was tied into twin ponytails with a yellow band across her head, and a snowflake-shaped pendant hung from her neck. Auntie Velzard. It's good to see you. Is Uncle Guy here too? Milim asked while walking forward to hug Velzard. Milim? It's been far too long. Yes, Guy is here. Did you have business with him? Velzard responded calmly while returning the hug Milim started. Milim looked up into Velzard's eyes with a glint of excitement in her own. Actually, I have news for the both of you. Well then, let me lead you somewhere we can talk, Velzard answered, leading the way deeper into the castle. Upon entering the castle, the two girls walked to a wide open room that looked out onto the never-ending blizzard outside, though no snow made it into the castle itself. Sitting at the only table was a man dressed in brown pants and a black shirt that did little beyond covering his arms. With his chest left bare to the elements, it was clear that he wasn't human even as he sipped some wine. Guy, Milim has something she wanted to share with us, Velzard said while taking a seat next to Guy and giving a quick kiss to his cheek. Oh? If it is interesting enough for you to come all this way to tell us, then I am curious about what it is, Guy responded while setting his wine down. Milim, having settled into the chair opposite the pair, was more than ready to speak. Sis is back. She reincarnated like she said she would, but she doesn't have any of her memories back yet. Guy quickly sat up, his eyes wide as he looked at Milim in shock. Are you sure? I haven't felt her presence at all, and I haven't heard of her mother reappearing either. Well, about that. Her soul seems to have fractured. It's not whole, and I don't know why or how it happened. As for her mother, I haven't seen her yet either, which is worrisome. Velza decided to jump into the conversation at this point, having recovered from her own shock. Well, if you say it's her, then I believe you, although it's strange that her mother hasn't reappeared as well. Where did you find her? She is in the Jura forest. She goes by KatarinaTempest and is a lycanthrope right now, Milim supplied helpfully. The Jura forest, You didn't reveal anything to her, have you? If she hasn't regained her memories, then we are still bound by the promise we made to not tell her about the past, Guy spoke while deep in thought, even as he picked his wine back up. I might have let slip that we were sisters before we officially met, but it's okay. Veldora has claimed her as his niece already, so we agreed that we could be sisters that way, Milim answered, quickly providing an excuse. Velzard seemed a little exasperated. Well, so long as that is the only thing you revealed, it should be fine. Just make sure you don't say anything else about it. In the meantime, we will keep an eye on things to make sure she isn't hurt. The last thing any of us want to do is lose another family member, especially when she has only just come back to us. I would appreciate that. She has only just been reborn, so she is still weak compared to us, which causes me to worry. The fact that I can't say anything just makes it worse, Milim said, trying to hold back tears, clearly affected greatly by her sister's return. You have our promise, Milim. We will keep an eye on her and make sure that she is safe, Guy supplied before standing and walking over to Milim to give her a hug.